our mentoring videos. My name is Roberta Ward, and today inside this video what we're going to do is talk about credit checking your tenant. Now, it still amazes me that so many landlords, particularly new landlords, don't bother to credit check their tenants. Now, it's very important that you do credit check your tenants for lots of different reasons. One of the main reasons, of course, is that you want to know that they have been good at paying their rent wherever they've been before, that they are employed and that they have been employed for quite some time. Another good reason for credit checking your tenants, of course, is to find out a little bit more about them and to make sure that they were used to paying their bills on time wherever they were before. So what's involved in a credit check? Well, the kinds of things that they will look at in a credit check are bank references. Generally speaking, they'll look at maybe 3 months worth of bank statements. And with the statements, what they'll do is you'll look at them and try and decide whether they're living beyond their means. In other words, whether they can actually properly afford their rent, or whether they're trying to live, with money that they don't actually earn. So that's quite important. Another thing is, of course, you'll get references in from their previous landlord, and it's always best to try and get references from more than one previous landlord if you can, because you don't know if that previous landlord is just trying to get rid of them as a tenant, and if they are trying to get rid of them as a tenant, then they're not going to tell you that they're terrible tenants, are they? They're going to tell you they're marvellous. So be aware of those kinds of things. Another thing which you would normally get with a credit check, of course, is details about their employment. And ideally, within the details that you get from a tenant, you want to be getting some kind of letter from their employer to say that they have a stable income, etc. Now, if you are going to go through legal credit checking of your tenants, or before you get your tenants, then you have to be aware that you need to get their permission to do that, otherwise it's illegal. And basically what you have to do is you have to get the applicant to sign a release authorising you as the landlord or agent to perform the credit check on their behalf. Now, if you do want a a release form, then at the end of this video, please just contact us. We'll put the email on the top of the screen at the end of the video. Contact us and we'll send you one if you want one. Free of charge, of course. We're not going to charge you for that. So what I'm going to do now is go through a few places online where you can check your credit for your tenants. Now, lots of newer landlords seem to think this is going to be a very expensive affair to do, and actually it's not. It can cost anywhere from about £7 or £8 or £10 up to about 30, with the top end being the ones that are they have more to offer you as far as the web. They will do a more in-depth check. The more you pay, the more you get for your money, as with everything in life. So I'm just going to run through a few of the places where you can get credit checks done. Get yourself a pen and we'll run through 5 or 6 of them. So number one, a company called Discount Letting. You can do credit reference checks there. Generally they cost about £15 on that website. Another one, Tenant Verify, again roughly the same sort of price, £15, £16, but they do have a top end service which is just over £30. And don't forget as well, just while I remember, that if you are having costs to do this kind of thing, then they are claimable back on your tax. So all these costs as far as advertising or getting credit checks done or anything like that, you can claim it back on your buy-to-let property. So let's move on to another company called Landlord Action. Landlord Action, I think, are one of the best credit checking companies there are out there. Very, very experienced. The guy who runs the website is an ex-bailiff, so he understands a lot about dodgy tenants. They probably do charge a little bit more than some of the other credit checking places, but their service is a lot more in depth. So if you want, particularly here, if you think about it, if you're renting something with quite a high value, rather than your standard sort of few £100s, if you're renting for instance an executive let, which you're potentially going to get a lot more for, those are the kinds of properties, unfortunately, that dodgy tenants do tend to target. So if I was renting out a property which is quite at the expensive end of the market, I would definitely go to the expense of getting a proper credit check done as in-depth as possible. Landlord Action, they charge about £65 for their really in-depth one, but if you've got a property in that bracket, it's really a minimal expense to make sure that you get tenants that are worthwhile. Another one is called Credit Check Services, and they offer 3 levels of service, right up from about £9 up to about £30. And then lastly, we've got a company called Ensley, and again they do everything from about £6.95 upwards. Now, one final tip is to visit a website called landlordstogether.co.uk, and this is quite a unique site, and what they do is they help landlords to identify known good and bad tenants. So basically they keep lists of tenants that have been credit checked, etc., and they will tell you in advance whether that tenant is good or bad. So if there are a lot of tenants in that area, then this could be a really useful website for you to stick on your bookmark folder on the web.